All right, welcome to another absolutely exhilarating discussion of whether or not a company should accept a one-time or even recurring order at a special price. All right, so in a previous video, we looked at about five different kind of theory type questions with some qualitative factors. To where we could make a case depending on the situation as to why we would want to accept or reject a order at a special price. And so usually, again, in the example that we provided, we had a total product cost of $8. The offer was for $7, which is almost always the way these questions are going to be arranged. In other words, the special order price is going to be less than our total product cost per unit, and yet that doesn't tell the whole story, because in our example the fixed costs were $3. So we were really comparing a $7 offer to a $5 offer, because the $3 was just allocated from fixed cost. It was going to, whatever that total fixed cost was going to happen anyway, and the more we make, the lower our fixed cost per unit is. So then we got into qualitative fact, because quantitatively our total product cost is $8, but $3 of that's fixed. The offer is $7. Quantitatively, we want to make that move. So the previous video we looked at reasons why that even though quantitatively the answer was yes, that we might not want to go ahead and do that in reality. So now we're going to actually get into a scenario where we can look at some numbers and put this into practice. So let's do that. It says Pink Bunny Corporation manufactures a product with the following full unit costs at a volume of 2,000 units. Okay, and so we have our and we are looking at everything here that has any that is either all or partially a variable cost. So we've got our direct materials at $100 per unit. We've got direct labor $40, manufacturing overhead $75, selling expenses $25, and administrative expenses $40, for a total per unit cost of $280. Okay. A company recently approached management with an offer to purchase 225 units for $275 each. Okay, so the offer, $275, is lower than the total per unit price of $280. So, you know, if you saw the other video or even heard the little example from it that I just gave, you know that we're not finished. We can't just say, okay, well, $275 is less than $280, so the answer is no. Let's see here. It says Pink Bunny currently sells the product to dealers for $400 each. Okay. This is a fact that is almost always included in these questions. And it is almost, from a quantitative standpoint, this is almost always going to be irrelevant information. It's just extra information. Okay. Now I will say this. The one time that could be important is if we go back to some of those qualitative factors, and this new customer is planning on competing in the same market as our regular customers. Because you know, if they're offering $275 and we normally sell it for $285, well, that's not going to have a perceptible difference in the market. But if our regular customers are paying $400 and now this person's getting it for $275 and they compete with each other, well, then it matters. But usually when you see this sentence here about what the company normally sells it for, from a quantitative perspective, it's going to be irrelevant information, because we're not talking about sales to those customers. We're talking about a special order to a new customer, maybe a one-time customer. Okay. Pink Bunny's capacity is sufficient to produce the extra 225 units. This is an important factor, because what that tells us is if we accept this offer, we can make the 225 and keep all of our regular business. so we're not going to incur any opportunity cost. Okay? And then to make it even easier, they say no selling expenses would be incurred on the special order. So the question is, if Pink Bunny's management accepts the offer, profits will increase or decrease, and by how much? All right. So we do not care whatsoever what profits are currently. Doesn't matter, because that's not what the question says. It says by how much will profits go up or down. Okay, so their offer is $275 per unit. Total cost is $280, but we have to make some major adjustments to this $280. And the reason is because we have a lot of fixed costs in this $280. So let's see what we have here. It says, we don't have to do anything to direct materials and direct labor. Those are always going to be variable costs. But when we talk about factory overhead, we have variable factory overhead, and we also have fixed factory overhead. And so, our variable factory overhead comes in the way of supplies and the variable portion of utilities and so forth. These are all indirect labor and so forth, right? So in this particular case, it looks like most of our manufacturing overhead is fixed, okay? So what we actually have to do is we have to take this 75 and we want to multiply that not by 30%, but, well, actually, we can multiply it by 30%. I think that'll be easier, actually. We're going to multiply it by 0.3. And that's going to give us $22.50. Now, what that really is saying there is that $52.50, which is 75 minus $22.50, $52.50 is fixed. So let's do this. We're only concerned about the variable, because that $52.50 cost per unit actually is going to go down if we make a few more items, 225 more items. But the $22.50, we're going to continue to incur that $22.50 on all 225 units that are made. Okay, selling expenses are 50% variable, so that one's easy. We can just take the 25 and multiply by 0.5. Let's start over there. 25 times 0.5 is $12.50. So variable and fixed component of selling expenses are equal. Try to clean that 5 up a little bit. $12.50. And then administrative expenses are 10% variable, and they're $40 in total per unit, but we're only interested in the variable portion. Let's see, I think I did that times the wrong number. Times 0.1 gives us 4. So, what are we going to do here? Well, we're going to add up all of these figures. So I'm going to take 140. I think we can agree that's 140. Let's back up. 140 plus, and then I'm going to add all of these figures here. 22.50 plus 12.50 plus 4. Okay, and that gives us 179. I just kind of want to double check that. See, that's 35, 175. Yeah, 179. So 179 variable cost per unit. All right, so clearly this is starting to look pretty good. So our offer is for $275, and that is more than 179 variable cost. So we know that profits will increase. So let's take the $275 offer price minus 179 variable cost per unit gives us $96. And this is our, this is our, I guess we would call this would be our differential profit per unit. But it's not the answer because there's 225 that they want. So now we have to multiply that by 225, the number of units. So our profit went up by $21,600. That is a very, very significant amount in this little scenario here. I mean, we sold 225 units, made 21,600. But it didn't look like that initially, did it? It looked like, we would say take 225 times 5 and that we would be going in the wrong direction. But that didn't happen. Okay? And really, quite honestly, this is kind of an obvious one because the 275 and the 280 are so close to begin with. It gets a little bit more interesting when the offer price and the total cost per unit, there's a bigger gap on those. Okay? All right, so let's see here what we have going on. Mini soup plant is running at 52% of its monthly capacity. Okay, that's an oddball figure. Mini soup plant has just received a special order to produce 400 cases of soup for a statewide supermarket. The supermarket will sell the soup under its own private brand label. Okay, so it's not going to say mini soup on there. The soup will be the same in all respects except for the label. So, we talked about that. We had that one question. It was a multiple choice question. It was like, what are some of the reasons why we might, what's not a reason what we might reject an order, something like that. And one of the answers was additional costs would be incurred. Well, this label is an example of those additional costs that could be incurred. So it says, which will cost Mini Soup Plant an extra $500 in total to design. So I guess they're going to run the labels. And the labels are obviously going to be the same size as the ones they use currently because they got to fit around the can, right? So the extra $500 is in design cost. The supermarket has offered to pay only $19 per case, which is well under Mini's normal sales price. Okay, so it says costs at the current production level, 450 cases, are as follows. All right, and so we see that we've got some costs here. Okay, and we have and then they have taken that and they've broken that out to how much per case. So just to, kind of help you out here, $4,500 in direct materials divided by 450 cases is $10 per case, right? Direct labor is $1,350 in total divided by 450 cases is $3. Okay, so that's how they came up with the $21, right? So, a couple things that I want to talk to you about here. Quantitatively, this is a pretty easy decision, I think, right? But there's one little hook in here that we're going to end up doing this. I'll tell you right now, we're going to end up doing this. But it was almost a little bit iffier, all right? We almost are going to incur some opportunity costs. And I'm going to go ahead and get to that point right now. 450 cases that they're currently operating at is 52%. of capacity. The special order is for 400. So watch this. If we take 400 and divide that by 400 plus 450, or 850, we come up with 47, little over 47%. We add 52% to that, and we are right at 100% capacity. Okay, so that's a concern. It just so happens that we just came in under the wire. All right, so don't want you to lose sight of that, because that's the kind of thing that if the question's a little bit harder, you might not catch. And so I don't think it would matter here, because what can we do? What is our variable cost? Well, it's very, very easy to calculate. All we have to do is say, what do we want to count and what do we not want to count? We got to count direct materials. It's completely variable. We got to count direct labor. It's completely variable. And we got to count variable manufacturing overhead. But they've done a lot of work for us here. We do not have to count fixed manufacturing overhead, because it's going to occur anyway. So really what we're talking about here is an offer of $19 per case. This is basically the exact same question that we just did with much, much smaller numbers, right? So it's 19 minus, not 21, 15, okay? And that's going to give us a unit contribution margin of $4, all right? Now we're going to take that $4 that we're making per case, and we're going to multiply it by the number of cases, which is involved in the special order, or 400. And that gives us $1,600 differential profit, except we forgot one thing, right? No, you didn't forget. You thought I was going to forget, right? What do we have to do to this 1,600? We have to subtract that $500 of additional costs that we incurred up here with the label design. Yeah. So our final answer is actually going to be $1,100 that we're going to add to profit. And $1,100 is not a lot of money, but guess what? Soup, potato soup or whatever probably doesn't, it's not a high, ticket item. So that's okay. So we're going to make $1,100, and very, very importantly, we are still within capacity. So why not, why not take the money? We're probably not going to even incur any overtime because we were within capacity. So $1,100 is $1,100, and we'll take it. All right, that's it for special price considerations.